Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our PMO Academy webinar, one of our series of webinars looking at specifically how we can make PMOs strong to go back to work. And today we're going to be doing something a little bit different called Give Your PMO an MOT, and we're going to go through both the process and a template that we will send you after this webinar to be able to actually give your PMO an MOT and see if you pass. In case you don't know us, my name is Emma-Ruth Arnaz-Pemberton. I'm the Director of Consulting Services at Wellingtone, and I also volunteer with a number of associations across the world to do with project management. You can follow me on LinkedIn using the QR code that you can see here. Wellingtone is a project management consulting firm. We have offices in the UK, in Ireland, and also in Spain. And we have partners in Latin America as well, providing some of our services. Our mission is to enable our clients to make a step change in their PPM maturity. And we do that through a number of different areas, including work management, focused on how Microsoft technology can help PMOs and project management organizations to do things more efficiently. We have a number of accreditations and partnerships, really kind of focused for today anyway. We're really focused on the PMO space. So you can see that we're a Microsoft Gold partner, and uniquely we're the only Gold partner that's also accredited by the APM, the Association for Project Management here in the UK. We work very closely with the UK partners of the PMO Global Alliance, and Course Conductor has accredited us as one of the leaders in PMO training, working with PMO teams to make them better. So what are we going to do today? Like I said, now seems to be the best time to take a step back and really reflect on the state of our PMO, how we're performing, how we need to change, what opportunities do we have to improve. And during the course of today, we're going to go through this process. Like I say, it is a little bit different. We're not going to keep you long, just to give you the ins and outs of all the different sections of the PMO certificate. So we're going to start with the state of PMOs. I thought it was important to give you some insight into kind of pre and post coronavirus. Then we'll go through the MOT process and the checklist that you're going to receive. So before coronavirus, the state of PMOs, we can see this in our State of Project Management survey that we run every year here at Wellingtone. We could see that 64% of PMOs believed that they were operating at a level 2 or 3 out of 5, which is pretty good. But only 30-odd% of PMOs were actually satisfied with that level of maturity. They felt and knew that they wanted and needed to improve. From a value delivery perspective, between 2018 and 2020, we've seen a huge uptake in the perception of value of the PMO as a business partner. We've seen it go from nearly 50% to over 70%. Now, since coronavirus, the world has changed a little bit for PMOs, and we are seeing lots of different information out there. So we're seeing articles about, how PMO won't exist in the future. Lots of organizations have started to put their PMO development on hold completely. Some organizations have disbanded their PMO because a lot of their projects and programs have either stopped or gone on hold themselves. So they don't feel like they need to have the structure in place. Over 60%, according to the APM, have seen an impact on their primary objectives as well. So we are seeing that we need to do something now to make sure that our PMO is strong for when we do go back to work, and also that we can really support our businesses in the areas that are going to be new and important in the future. So how are we going to do that? So we're going to do that today with our PMO MOT, and these are going to be all the different sections that we're going to be testing on for your own PMO. And you can see here we've got project management, we've got program and portfolio management, but we're also focusing in on things like communications and collaboration between teams, capability development, governance, benefits management, planning skills, and also really important, the executive support. And we'll start with that one in a second. What we've also done in the tool itself is to give you a couple of sections where you can actually add your own. We know that not all PMOs are the same. So here, if your PMO wants to check something, or you have a particular area that isn't typical PMO maybe, or isn't covered in what we already have, you can actually add your own section and include that in your overall view. And I'll show you what that looks like later. So what we're going to do now is go through each of these sections to kind of understand the importance of each of them. And we're going to start off with one of the top ones, and one of the top reasons why PMOs say they fail is executive support. Now, the strength and condition of your steering group or the person that is supporting your PMO is super important to understand if your PMO could pass this MOT. What we're testing for is to see how responsive they are to change requests, to support, and also how your PMO is being championed at a more strategic level. Quite often PMOs get kind of left to their own devices, so it's important that we test for this. If executive support breaks down, if it fails, then your direction will be unclear and your journey, whatever that is, will end up taking longer and potentially be more painful than you expect it to be. So this topic is the first one, and we put it at the top because it's actually really important, and we know that PMOs say this is the reason why they fail. The next one is all about portfolio management, and this is key for our MOT because it gives us visibility across everything that's happening in the organisation when it comes to change. And what we do is we need to make sure during this test to see if our portfolio is positioned correctly, it's balanced in the right way. So we're looking at things like how much focus is placed on value, on minimising risk, and also taking a common sense approach to scheduling. If we don't have good portfolio management, then the demand process is going to be really difficult. So managing that demand versus our current resource profile is going to be tough. We know that resource management, again, is one of the key reasons why PMOs have problems. And what can end up happening if we don't have good portfolio management processes is that we end up delivering projects that don't contribute to our strategic objectives. When we all go back to work and our businesses get back to normal, that's not going to be a situation that can be sustained for very long. We need to make sure that the projects and change that we're standing up in the future are truly delivering something for the business to move forward with. The next section is program management. So next level down, we like to roll things up and down in project management, and program management really controls the speed around which change activities get scheduled. So this is where the control is as to what we're going to start off with when. Things that we test for in this area are to see to what extent change management is considered. We know the difference between a project and a program. Fundamentally, change management is included in project management, and if you read any of the guidance, there's usually a change manager role for a program. So we're really looking to see how much change management is considered throughout programs. Also, we want to understand how program governance is reflected at both portfolio and project levels, that programs aren't kind of sitting there outside, not really connected to anything. If program management breaks down, then it can be very difficult for PMOs to understand progress of what's happening. Also, the schedule of impact and the impacts of change. So if we're trying to do too much change, we've all been subject to change fatigue at some point where our organizations really need and want to push everything out in one go. If this breaks down, we lose that visibility, we lose that ability to schedule intelligently and understand the impact on our people. Next, we have program management. So program management is the engine. It's what's delivering the outputs of the change initiatives and really helping us to drive beneficial change. So having a clear and repeatable process that's consistently utilized, that we've got the right approval processes, the right gating, documentation, this is all the stuff we're testing for in an MOT check. We're not looking for you to have one process necessarily, but the fact that we can be pragmatic across the different types of projects and activities that we run, and that we do have processes that support each of those. It isn't about one process, 5 stages for absolutely everything. If project management breaks down, then we immediately will see a disconnect between how we report progress, which means organizations can't make decisions for the future. What we also see is we get a lack of confidence in both the delivery teams and the PMO who are reporting this information, and that can then lead to a breakdown in collaboration. So project management, having that basic structure, looking at how mature we are and building something that is appropriate is key to passing our MOT process. You don't have to be at level 5, as long as you're doing what you need to do project management better in your organisation. Now we look at planning. Planning is all about visibility. It's a key driver for us. We are looking both forwards and backwards when we're looking at planning and understanding how we're going to schedule our activities, what's going to happen. So having a clear set of standards for everybody to adopt when they're tasked with a project or a program will help that decision making. And really important, it helps us to do that analysis of what happened or what were we expecting versus what really happened in real life. So it's really driving directly into knowledge management and making sure that we're learning from our lessons. If we lose the ability to plan effectively, then one of the key things that always happens is we see lots of changes to scope whilst the projects are live. And that's because we lack estimation processes, and that can be very difficult because we can see projects, instead of 3 months, they'll last 6 months. And as you can imagine, that will have a significant impact on the credibility of the information that's available that the PMO is actually reporting up with and using. So we need to make sure that we've got some planning standards. Again, they don't have to be overly complicated. They don't have to be very complex. They can be simple instructions to what's the minimum standard that we expect when we do our planning across projects and programs. Next, we have post-projects and benefits work. So really looking at what's happening at the back end of our projects, making sure that we've got our projects and programs ending in a controlled fashion. It's one of the Prince 2 principles for those of you using Prince 2, that we can make sure that we can support that knowledge management. We can understand if we keep having this issue, if the benefits aren't bringing what we're expecting them to, we can make a decision on how to move things forward. So if this breaks down, then we don't learn. The definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And unfortunately, that's how lots of organizations work, or we just keep learning the same pain, albeit different people. So we can see the same issues reappearing, and then we lose the knowledge of what it actually costs, the true costs of running our projects. In terms of governance arrangements, this is really, for me, it's a suspension that holds change to account, and it gives us an understanding of how healthy a PMO really is when we look at the governance arrangements and how the organisation is working with the PMO to deliver those and to facilitate those. So we need to make sure that governance arrangements are available across projects, programs and portfolios. There isn't a one size fits all. We need to, again, be pragmatic with the level of governance that we're applying at different levels. And this will give us the assurance that the organisation is doing the right things in the right way. If we don't have this, then we can't really provide representative information based on good data. It tends to be everything managed more of on a gut feel, and what we do tend to see in this case is that pet projects get delivered, which PMOs generally hate when we have projects that we have to run because it's someone's idea, it's their pet, and they're usually quite senior, and so it just gets done. That's a real pet peeve of PMOs. In terms of communication and collaboration, one of our PMO principles at Wellingtone is that PMOs are integrators. So we bring people, process, information together. So we need to demonstrate during the PMO that the PMO is building a network internally and externally through some relevant regular communication, like indicators on our cards, so that we are talking to people all the time so that it's clear where we're going. So we need to make sure we're looking for if our communication strategies are different across different stakeholder groups and how we're approaching that. If we don't have this, we end up working in a bubble that it's really hard to escape from. We tend to have not much visibility of the reality that is impacting our PMO customers. And at the moment, we're all working from home, so that is more important than ever now. We really need to focus on communication and collaboration. Next, we have capability development, and this is all about people. So making sure, again, that we're focusing on one of our Wellingtone PMO principles, which is enabling capability. Actually making sure that we have the process and the influence to be able to continually support people. It's all good and well having very pretty processes and templates and everything else, but if we're not focusing on developing the capability of those people, giving them the skills and the confidence to do their job in the right way, then that process, that template will be useless. It's like putting air in car tires. It's not something that we do once, it's something that we're doing regularly to make sure that our people have the tools they need and the confidence to use them. If we don't have this, then what people will see the PMO as is a bureaucratic function that doesn't support its customers, that doesn't think about its customers. Another one of our Wellingtone PMO principles is that the PMO is customer focused all the time. You have customers just like every other department. You need to make sure that those customers can use your services to the best of their possible ability. And then finally, we have PMO management. This is the fuel that delivers change throughout the organisation. So how the PMO manages itself is fundamental for a positive PMO result. So how do you review your performance, both against internal and external measures? Lots of PMOs focus on the performance of projects, but don't report on their own performance and how they're doing things. So looking internally to understand how you're delivering your services, and also looking externally, so benchmarking opportunities that you can do with Wellingtone as an example, to really understand your PMO versus other PMOs in your industry. That will help you to put a roadmap in place to drive maturity over time and really get the PMO to be respected as a value-adding business partner. If PMO management breaks down, if it's not strong enough, then what we tend to find is that your PMO will end up working in isolation. So whilst we're attempting to work alongside the organisation, they won't want to hear it, because they will see us as those people sat in a corner. They do some stuff, but we don't really know what it is. So we need to make sure that we're brave, that we say, we're not great at this yet, it's a journey, we're evolving, and that's okay. And being brave and putting your head up above the parapet and making sure that not only are you reporting on others doing their role, but how you do your role is really, really important to getting your PMO to be respected, because it gives people the transparency of who you are and what you do. So the PMO checklist itself, that's a very brief overview of kind of the 10 main areas that we're looking at. You can see here on the left-hand side kind of what it looks like. It's in Excel. There is no code, so it's very easy for you to use. It's customizable. There are 2 sections that are left blank for you to add your own, and the results will either be a pass with repairs, or a fail. Now, there are 4 columns that you'll need to complete, and then the rest is up to you. And I'm going to walk you through these now so that you are able to complete this, or come back to this webinar and listen again if you need help on how to fill it in or information on each of the sections. So the first column is available. So what we want to do is to indicate with a yes or no whether you broadly agree with the statement. So we're looking at a little bit of a high level. Then we go down to the next level using the scoring column, and from here you'll be selecting from a 4 to a -4 in between, using scoring matrix. So yes, you agree, but then to what extent do you actually agree? So really getting down to that next level of detail. Then we're looking at value. How much value does this add to your PMO? And value is relative to everything that you do. So it's really easy to say, oh, we do benefits management, that's really valuable and it's really important. If we know that that's one of the hardest things for PMO to do, then we need to look at value relative to that. If that's something that is highly visible, highly important in your organization, then we're looking at how much does this statement, if it was a yes, how much value would it add to your PMO? Is it something that you're not that bothered about, it's never really going to be part of your scope, then it isn't really going to add much value. Then we're looking at difficulty. So if you've scored a negative, for example, how difficult is it going to be to get this embedded or to a place where you are comfortable? And again, for both of these, we're selecting high, medium, or low. And when it comes to difficulty, again, your reality will be different to my reality and someone else's PMO's reality. You need to look at it in the context of what your PMO environment and your organizational environment. So how much value is something going to add, and how difficult is it going to be for you to get it to a place where you're happy? Once you've done all of that, what the tool will do is it will tell you whether something's not applicable, so you can actually grey things out and make them not applicable, and all the instructions, as you can kind of see, are in the form. So the system will tell you then it's about identifying some key areas for opportunity. So it's going to tell you this area needs some help, and you can start to think about some of the actions that are going to help you to get that to a good place. There's also a section for notes. So if you do want to pass this around your team, which we strongly recommend, everybody can kind of add their own notes to ideas. How can we make things better? Why is this failing? And like I said earlier, suspension, planning, project management. So the tool will give you a result. It will tell you whether your PMO has passed or not, and the idea is then you can take that and you can paste that into a presentation or an email or whatever your case for change is going to be moving forward when you're developing all of your ideas. So in terms of next steps, Wellingtone will send you an email with the PMO MOT checklist attached. Like I said, it's in Excel, it's really accessible. It's dead easy for you to use. There's no fancy code or anything like that in there, so you will be able to open it in whatever version of Excel you have. Then we recommend that you complete it with your team. It's all of this kind of work we always recommend that we do as a collective, because my perspective will be different to somebody else's perspective. So if you need to do it on your own, that's absolutely fine. Just put on kind of your critical thinking hat and really think about how you're really performing in these areas. Then if you're brave and you dare, then share your results either on social media or send it over, and you can contact us at any time with help with your PMO evolution. We have lots of different initiatives that are happening that will help you to access help from Wellingtone. So things like our Dr. PMO series, where you can just send us in a question or a challenge that you're facing, and we'll see if we can help, and we'll create a little video that we can put out on social media that might just give you a few hints and tips. Lots of blogs and lots of support. You can contact us directly, so you have my email address there. You can find me on LinkedIn and or the Wellingtone website, wellingtone.co.uk. Or if you're outside of the UK and Spanish speaking, we also have wellingtone.es. And just for fun, we have this PMO superhero quiz going at the moment, which we love. You can find out which PMO superhero you are by going to futurepmo.com. Once you've done that, you can have a look at our articles which align to each one of those, and it might just give you an idea of some of the strengths, opportunities, and some of the characteristics of some of the superheroes that we tend to find in our PMOs. Thank you very much for listening. I hope to be engaged with you very soon in the PMO world, and yeah, have a good week.